Have you ever wondered how parental love can sometimes lead to feelings of ingratitude in children? In a world where overprotective parenting is common, we'll explore the profound impact this dynamic has on both children and parents. In this video, we delve into the story of a 36-year-old woman who, despite her mother's unwavering support, finds herself lost and resentful. You'll learn about the crucial balance between nurturing love and allowing independence, and how too much protection can stifle personal growth. Stay tuned as we unravel the emotional struggles faced by families caught in this cycle of dependency and the heartbreaking consequences that arise. Discover the vital lessons from a couple who chose to prioritize their financial security over blind support, and see how their journey reflects a growing trend in modern relationships. By the end of this video, you'll gain insights into fostering healthier family dynamics, the importance of setting boundaries, and how to cultivate gratitude and responsibility in your loved ones. Don't miss out on these transformative ideas that could change how you view parenting and independence. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. The story captures the harrowing journey of a 36-year-old woman returning to her mother's home, weighed down by the wreckage of her past choices and the emotional turmoil left by a painful divorce. Her spirit was shattered, her finances depleted, and she found herself utterly lost within life's endless maze of challenges. Each problem seemed to arrive in an unforgiving wave, one after another, pressing heavily upon her mother's shoulders. She had invested her heart, trust, and money with friends she once thought were trustworthy allies, only to find herself betrayed, abandoned, and financially ruined. The blow was devastating, not just to her bank account but to the very core of her self-worth. Even more heartbreaking, she kept the truth about her friend's dishonesty hidden from her mother, hoping to spare her the pain. Yet, in her desperation to rebuild, she again risked everything, this time with a business that her mother, through heavy borrowing, helped fund. But fate was unkind, and that venture, too, collapsed, leaving behind enormous debts. Each day, agents came knocking, their words laced with threats, casting a dark shadow of fear and tension over their home. The mother and daughter, once bound by love, now lived in a constant state of dread. While her mother bore the crushing weight of these circumstances, her daughter seemed oblivious. She did not work, had little income, and allowed her elderly mother to care for her young child while she drowned her sorrows in nightly escapes filled with drinking and partying. This scene reflects a disturbing yet familiar pattern in today's society. How some evade responsibility and maturity, even when it's most needed. Eventually, her mother, reaching her breaking point, tearfully begged her daughter to take control of her life, to be self-sufficient, and to leave, for she could no longer shoulder these burdens alone. Her mother's words weren't harsh, they were a last, desperate plea, an anguished expression of love and hope for her daughter's awakening. Yet, rather than gratitude or understanding, the daughter met her mother's words with coldness and resentment. She did not flinch. Instead, she twisted her view, seeing herself as a victim, believing that her mother was somehow to blame for all her misfortunes. This was a heartbreaking moment, the moment where the unbreakable parent-child bond seemed to fracture beyond repair. The mother, overwhelmed by shock, could hardly believe her ears. After all those years of protection and sacrifice, she now faced accusations and an utter lack of appreciation from the very person she had cherished and nurtured. This raw scene stirs deep empathy, laying bare the mother's pain, disbelief, and heartbreak. The story's depth increases with the addition of another character, a man who, much like the daughter, was consumed by a life of self-indulgence and irresponsibility. He ignored his family and children, prioritizing fleeting pleasures and the company of similarly reckless friends. But life, unforgiving in its lessons, eventually brought him to ruin. Betrayed by his friends, he nearly lost everything. In a twist of fate, his brother stepped in, absorbing tremendous debt to salvage what little remained, preserving the family home. This man's experience is a sobering reminder of how dependence and irresponsibility can carve destructive paths through one's life, with repercussions that ripple out to affect loved ones. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The similarities between these two individuals, both unwilling to take responsibility, both trapped in cycles of immaturity, offer a powerful commentary on a psychological concept known as adult children. Outwardly, they look and seem like adults, but beneath the surface, their emotional and intellectual development is frozen in a childlike state. It's a haunting reality, and it raises a pressing question. What leads to such arrested development? The answer, it seems, lies in a blend of family dynamics and societal influence. For instance, the woman's formative years were spent in a rigid household where her mother dictated every decision, both large and small. Her independence was stifled, her choices were restricted, and even when she fell into debt, her mother took control. In such an environment, the seeds of dependency were sown, and as she grew, these roots of reliance only tightened. This story is an emotional reflection of how, without nurturing independence and responsibility, the growth potential can be stunted, leaving scars that echo into adulthood. The sorrow of a mother witnessing her child's resentment, the sadness of a life spiraling due to unchecked habits, and the tragedy of realizing too late the price of irresponsibility, all resonate with a painful yet essential truth about life, family, and the responsibility we bear, not just to ourselves, but to those who believe in us the most. In yet another telling story, a man's elder brother assumed an extraordinarily authoritative role within their family. When their parents passed away, instead of allowing the family members to share responsibilities or make their own choices, this brother took control of every single decision. He determined who should marry whom, where each sibling should work, and even decided which schools the children should attend. For the younger brother, this absolute control was both stifling and damaging, stripping away any opportunity to grow, make mistakes, or forge an independent life. Trapped in his older brother's shadow, he found himself in a deepening cycle of dependence. This story poignantly reminds us that, no matter how deep the love and care from family, overprotection can act like a cage, leaving loved ones deprived of the personal growth necessary to become responsible, fulfilled adults. The emotional complexity of this story makes one reflect on the profound ways family power dynamics and rigid role assignments can shape, or even warp, personality development. The older brother, perhaps genuinely convinced that he was looking out for his family, was blinded by his belief that he alone knew what was best for everyone. Under the surface of his protective actions lay a deep mistrust in his brother's ability to make sound decisions. This mistrust, while perhaps unintentional, turned into a crippling lack of confidence for the younger brother. Gradually, the younger brother grew accustomed to letting decisions be made for him. Each time he followed his brother's judgment instead of making his own, he lost a bit more of his drive and willpower, sinking further into a passive state where he was, quite literally, living his life according to someone else's script. It's heart-wrenching to see how this dynamic unfolded. With each decision the older brother made on his behalf, the younger brother's sense of autonomy faded, and with it, any desire to take control of his future. This created a deeply unhealthy cycle, a vicious loop where the more control the older brother asserted, the more the younger brother's willingness to act independently waned. This is not merely a hypothetical example. It's a scenario that occurs in countless families, where one person's caregiving goes from supportive to stifling, leaving both the dependent and the caregiver emotionally drained and deeply unfulfilled. From the perspective of the caregiver, even when driven by love, such over-involvement can become a self-imposed burden. While they believe they are helping, they are, in reality, denying their loved ones essential experiences, like the chance to face challenges, make mistakes, and build resilience. Over time, this kind of one-sided caregiving leads to resentment, regret, and sadness for both parties. The caregiver often ends up feeling exhausted, their efforts unappreciated, and the dependent loses out on the confidence and life skills that come with independence. It's a tragic reality, common in households where adult children are still treated as dependents, with family members who monopolize decisions and deny them a voice in their own lives. This, unfortunately, makes independence feel like an impossible dream. Excessive caregiving can be insidious, going beyond the boundary of support and sliding into a subtle but relentless form of control. Take, for example, a devoted mother who, with all her heart, gave everything she had to care for her child well into her old age. Her life revolved around this child, yet, despite her sacrifices, the outcome was heartbreaking. Her child grew up entitled, lacking gratitude, and entirely unprepared to navigate the world. This is a painfully familiar scenario in many overprotective households. Parents, in their desperation to shield their children from hardship, unintentionally rob them of the crucial life experiences that build resilience and character, creating adults who cannot cope with life's inevitable challenges and difficulties. Truly nurturing love, on the other hand, doesn't seek to control or micromanage. It allows for growth, mistakes, and self-discovery. One beautiful example is a father who, rather than dictating his children's choices, empowered them to make their own. When his twin daughters, just 10 years old, expressed a desire for a pet, he could have stepped in, fearing the responsibility was too great. Instead, he let them decide for themselves how they wanted to care for it. The girls took on the responsibility of caring for a dog, proudly doing so without relying on their parents. Through this act of trust, they learned not only about responsibility but also about the importance of commitment, patience, and the satisfaction that comes from accomplishing something on their own. Each day they cared for their pet was a step toward greater maturity, encouraging them to take on even more responsibilities in other areas, like schoolwork and friendships, with renewed confidence and independence. This father's story shows us that love, when balanced between protection and freedom, becomes a powerful force that strengthens family bonds and nurtures both courage and independence. It's the type of love that gives a person the strength to step forward on their own, unafraid of life's challenges. Such love is deeply appreciated, as it recognizes the other person's autonomy and supports their growth rather than confining them to a life of dependency. Responsibility isn't something you can simply give to someone else. It's something they must cultivate within themselves. By encouraging his daughters to care for their pets, the father gave them the invaluable gift of self-belief and resilience, teaching them that they were capable of handling both successes and failures. This simple act led the girls to flourish in ways that extended far beyond caring for the dog. They became more proactive in their studies and other pursuits, blossoming into individuals who were ready to face the world with strength and confidence. In the end, a family love that strikes a healthy balance between guidance and freedom becomes the solid foundation from which children can grow into capable, self-assured adults. It's a love that respects boundaries, offers support without judgment, and trusts that even when mistakes are made, they are stepping stones toward growth. When love is given freely and not imposed, it allows children to spread their wings and navigate their unique paths with courage. Through trust and a gentle touch, families can create the space for every member to build the confidence and skills necessary to lead a life of their own making, where resilience, gratitude, and self-assurance are nurtured, and life is embraced with open arms. This story brings to life the bittersweet journey of parenthood, illustrating the fundamental truth that the most profound love is often wrapped in the art of letting go. For parents, there is an indescribable depth of love and protection that anchors them to their children. Yet it's this very love that calls for them to step back, to allow their children to find their wings. True parental love is about much more than providing for every need. It's about nurturing independence and preparing children for a world that won't always be as forgiving as a parent's embrace. When a mother steps back, or a father chooses to let go, it's not an absence of love but a selfless act of faith, a way of saying, "I trust you to find your path." And it's this trust that ultimately strengthens the family bond, allowing each person to flourish authentically. In this story, we meet an elderly man who, alongside his wife, devoted the best years of their lives to their children, giving without hesitation and sacrificing without complaint. Together, they shared the same dreams every parent carries: to raise their children with a solid foundation, to shield them from hardship, and to pave the way for a brighter future. As young parents, they faced their struggles. They worked tirelessly, barely making ends meet at times, but always finding a way to provide for their sons. Their shared dream was to give their children a life of stability, free from the hardship they once endured. And for many years, they did just that, pouring their love into every meal, every lesson, every late-night conversation. But now, in the twilight of their years, they find themselves at a crossroads. The children they once cradled in their arms have grown, setting off on their paths. While this transition is natural, it brings a harsh reality. The love and energy parents invest in raising children does not always guarantee the same warmth in return as they age. This man's story is a poignant reminder that, as life evolves, family dynamics can shift in ways that bring both joy and sorrow. Even as their hearts brimmed with pride for their children's accomplishments, he and his wife found themselves feeling a subtle yet unmistakable distance. And so, they made a choice, a difficult and, to many, a surprising one, to prioritize their independence over continued financial support for their children. This decision, though financially prudent, was anything but easy. After a lifetime of giving, stepping back requires courage not everyone can understand. Despite both having been public servants, earning comfortable pensions amounting to over $5,000 annually, they refrained from giving financial help to their sons. To outsiders, this restraint was shocking, challenging the common belief that parents, especially those with means, should extend financial support to their children, particularly in challenging economic times. The couple knew that choosing this path would raise eyebrows and might even invite judgment, yet they remained resolute. The man reflects, "We want to protect our savings to secure our retirement, to enjoy what we worked so hard for. And we want our children to build their lives on their own, with their means." From the outside, it might seem unconventional, perhaps even unfeeling. However, as the man shared his heart, his deep love for his children became abundantly clear. "We love them deeply," he explains, his voice thick with emotion. "We sacrificed everything for them when they were young. But now, we believe true love means letting them go. We want them to live with independence, to experience the pride and dignity that come from standing on their own 2 feet. It's not about denying help. It's about teaching them that they have the strength to make their way." He continues, "I am 72 years old, and my wife is 67. We've both been retired for over a decade, and in these years, we've finally started living for ourselves. We faced so many struggles to reach this point, to finally be able to travel, to savor our days without the weight of worry, and we cherish this time as a chance to enjoy the last chapters of our lives freely and fully. After all those years of sacrifice, it's our time." Their retirement has indeed allowed them to explore dreams that had long been set aside. They travel, enjoy hobbies they never had time for, and embrace a newfound freedom, unburdened by the financial strains they once endured. However, their decision not to share their pension with their sons has been met with mixed reactions. Friends, family, and even acquaintances often express surprise, if not outright disapproval. In a society where many parents continue to support their children well into adulthood, this couple's stance seems almost rebellious. "People don't understand," the man shares with a sigh. "They see us as withholding, even though we poured our love and resources into our children for decades. But we're not heartless." The weight of his words reflects years of reflection, of observing and understanding their sons' lives, choices, and needs. Both he and his wife had known poverty intimately, having struggled through years of hardship before they finally attained the stability offered by their jobs as public servants. They knew the desperation of living paycheck to paycheck, and they worked tirelessly to ensure their children never felt that fear. But now, with their children grown, he feels that it's time to step back, to watch them grow without interference or financial crutches. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. With a gentle pride, he explains, we've always encouraged them to be strong, to face life's challenges with resilience. Now, as we age, we feel the most loving thing we can do is let them experience that strength for themselves. It doesn't mean we don't love them. It means we believe in them. Their story challenges conventional expectations of parental roles, reminding us that love is not always about giving endlessly but about trusting in the capabilities of those we love. By choosing to let their sons find their way, they have left a legacy of self-reliance and dignity. Their lives now are dedicated to cherishing the years they have left, free from financial obligation, able to enjoy the fruits of their labor with clear hearts and open minds. For this couple, this independence is the truest form of love, one that encourages their children to stand tall, secure in the knowledge that they were raised with care, wisdom, and the unwavering belief that they have everything they need within themselves. Reflecting on the journey of parenthood, the couple's story is a deeply moving example of how love and sacrifice can sometimes lead to unexpected outcomes. The father recalls, "We made sure to only spend on what was necessary, avoiding any excesses. This wasn't just about saving money. It was a cornerstone of our parenting philosophy. We wanted our sons to grow up valuing hard work and understanding the balance between support and self-sufficiency." This educational approach was successful in one respect. Their sons excelled academically and were accepted into prestigious universities. The couple did everything possible to support them, but they also believed firmly in setting boundaries to avoid any unnecessary indulgence. They knew that love needed to be grounded in realism. However, as their sons grew, the once close family ties began to change, and an emotional distance settled between them. As their sons became adults, found jobs, married, and started their own families, the emotional connection slowly faded. Friends and neighbors praised the couple for their successful children, seeing only the outward stability and accomplishments. But the truth was that behind these achievements was the couple's unwavering and often invisible support. It was they who had silently stood behind their sons, providing opportunities and assistance that no one else saw. After their eldest son graduated, they helped him secure a job at a reputable state-owned company, using connections they had nurtured over the years. When he married, they gifted him $100,000 for a down payment on his home. Later, when he needed a car, they provided $5,000 to help. Their support continued with their second son, who struggled to find his footing after choosing a less popular major. They paid for his additional education, hoping it would improve his job prospects, and indeed, he found a stable position closer to the age of 30. For him, too, they contributed over $50,000 for his wedding expenses and bought homes for each son to ensure they had secure places to raise their own families. Over the years, they poured their entire life savings into their children, leaving little for themselves. And when grandchildren came along, they sacrificed yet again. The mother retired at 50 to care for her eldest son's child, and the father followed at 60 to help with the second son's family. Their days, once full of personal dreams and plans, now centered around grandchildren, babysitting, and caretaking, with hardly a moment for their desires. Yet as they looked back, a painful realization dawned on them. They had given everything, yet the warmth they once imagined would return to them was nowhere to be found. Instead of gratitude, they felt a quiet but deep reliance on their sons, who had come to expect their support as a given, not as an extraordinary act of love. It was common for elderly parents to have warm, busy households, with children visiting regularly, especially during festivals. But not in their home. Their sons rarely visited. Phone calls were few and far between. The eldest son, though living just a 4-hour drive away, only returned once a year, and when he did, his visit lacked any warmth. The parents had long awaited his arrival with excitement and had prepared a special New Year's celebration. But when he arrived, he brought only a few changes of clothes. No gifts, no symbolic New Year's money to honor his parents, unlike the thoughtful gestures other children made for their elderly parents. The loneliness this left in the parents' hearts was profound and painful. One year, unable to contain their disappointment, they gently shared how hurt they felt by his apparent lack of thoughtfulness. They yearned for just a little acknowledgement, a small gesture of thanks. But his response cut deep. "Well, you're getting old, and probably don't eat as much anymore. Keeping things would just be a waste." The words, spoken so casually, left them in silence. Their years of devotion, their life savings, their endless hours of care, They had expected nothing lavish in return, only love and respect. Instead, they were left questioning if they had, somewhere along the way, lost themselves in their boundless love for their sons. For these parents, the ache is not only in what they gave up, but in the realization that their efforts might have inadvertently created this distance. It's a powerful reminder of how important balance is, not just between love and boundaries, but between giving and receiving, between support and self-reliance. The pain and disappointment this couple has endured with their second son is a heartbreaking reflection of how complicated family relationships can become. Despite dedicating their lives to providing for him, including the purchase of a house that many only dream of, they found themselves confronted with his growing demands, which stung them deeply. His latest demand, not a request but a command, was for $70,000 to buy a new car. He didn't approach them with humility or gratitude. Instead, he took on a tone so forceful, so entitled, that it made them feel like they were obliged to meet his demands, no questions asked. It wasn't just the money. It was the way he seemed to believe he was entitled to whatever he asked for. Though they had the means to fulfill his request, something within them resisted. Why should they give in to such unreasonable behavior? After all, he already had a car. Was it so necessary to indulge in more? For them, this wasn't a question of ability. They could have given him the money. But a question of principle, a stand against what they saw as an alarming lack of respect and appreciation. When they refused, they hoped he might take a step back, see his demands for what they were, and reconsider. Instead, he shifted his tactics, claiming now that he needed funds for home renovations or perhaps business investments. But the parents, well versed in his ways, sensed these requests were nothing more than thinly veiled attempts to exploit their goodwill. Determined to set boundaries, they decided to offer him minimal financial help, thinking perhaps this would bring about a change in his attitude. Instead, his reaction was one of cold detachment. As if their refusal to fund his every whim was a grievous offense. He pulled away, barely visiting, showing no warmth when he did. Family gatherings became uncomfortable shadows of what they once were. On the rare occasions he visited, he hardly stayed for a full meal, making excuses to leave as quickly as possible, brushing off their kind words and even rejecting their offers to make him feel at home. This hurt them more deeply than they could express. It seemed as though their son was treating their home, once filled with his laughter and presence, as a mere pit stop, devoid of any emotional connection. In the quiet moments that followed, they felt an emptiness creeping in, realizing the warmth that once existed between them was slowly fading. 4 years ago, the wife faced a challenging time when she required surgery for her knee. The couple had always been self-sufficient, and they bore the expenses without asking their sons for help. But in her heart, the wife hoped that this would be the moment her children would step up. Lying in her hospital bed, she wished, just once, to see her sons walk through the door, to feel their presence, and to know that they cared. Yet, as the days dragged on, her sons remained distant, their absence an unspoken reminder of the priorities that lay elsewhere. Other patients in the ward were surrounded by their families, children who sat by their sides and watched over them with love and care. She, however, was left alone, her hopes fading as each day passed without a visit, her only consolation a few impersonal phone calls from her sons. Then, as if fate hadn't tested them enough, her husband suffered an accident shortly after her surgery, resulting in a broken leg. Still weakened from her recent operation, the wife couldn't care for him as much as she wanted. They turned once more to their sons, hoping this time the seriousness of the situation might compel them to offer support. But again, they were met with excuses. One son was too occupied with work, the other cited health issues of his own, brushing aside his father's pleas with casual indifference. Even when the father explained the gravity of his condition, their responses remained the same. Empty words, void of any intent to help. Desperate and heartbroken, he was forced to hire an outside caregiver, a stranger who, despite not sharing their blood, showed a level of empathy and dedication that contrasted painfully with his son's neglect. The truth behind their son's behavior became painfully clear soon after when he discovered from his grandchildren that, during his time of need, His eldest son had been basking in the sun on a seaside vacation, while his younger son was mountain climbing. The revelation struck him like a dagger to the heart, a betrayal that went beyond mere disappointment. In his darkest moments, as he struggled with both physical and emotional pain, his children, the sons he and his wife had sacrificed so much for, had chosen leisure over love, prioritizing personal enjoyment over family duty. This was not just neglect. It was a devastating reminder that their roles as parents had somehow lost all value in their children's eyes. Through this painful journey, they began to confront an undeniable truth. They could no longer place their hopes, much less their future security, in the hands of their children. When friends and family suggested they might help their sons financially, they now felt a quiet resolve. They had come to realize that such support would only enable a cycle of dependency and disrespect. With age on their side and health still permitting, they resolved to ensure that their retirement plans would no longer be tethered to the unreliable goodwill of their sons. If their children could turn their backs so easily now, what could they expect when frailty inevitably arrived? Would they be abandoned yet again, left to fend for themselves without the warmth or care of family? This painful clarity led them to make a bold decision. They would preserve their savings, protecting their resources not for their sons but for themselves. They decided that, if the need ever arose, they would rely on professional caregiving facilities where dignity, respect, and individual care were guaranteed. It hurt to admit that strangers might offer them more security than their flesh and blood, but it was a necessary realization. Care facilities may lack the familiar warmth of home, but at least they promise care and stability, the husband reflected. It is far better to pay for services with money than to rely on sons who have shown us nothing but cold indifference. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. In many ways, their story is a testament to a broader change in society, a shift that has left countless parents in similar situations. The bonds between parents and children, once held as sacred, seem to be fading as the values of individualism and personal freedom take precedence. In today's world, where the younger generation often places self-satisfaction above family duty, true filial piety has grown rare. With this shift comes the sobering need for older generations to take control of their own futures, protecting retirement savings and planning for a life of self-reliance. Of course, helping children in times of genuine hardship is one thing, but there's a line where help becomes an unhealthy crutch, robbing children of the lessons they need to grow. Life's challenges are a universal teacher, and children, too, must learn to navigate their paths and face their trials, just as their parents once did. For this couple, the decision to safeguard their future was born not from bitterness, but from a hard-won wisdom. Their story serves as a reminder to all that love, while boundless, should never come at the cost of one's dignity. In choosing to value their well-being over the fleeting demands of their children, they have, in a way, found a path back to peace. He firmly believes that the role of parents isn't just about raising children but about supporting and guiding them when they face challenges, within boundaries that respect everyone's independence. For him, this role doesn't simply stop when children grow up. It becomes a lifelong commitment, rooted in love, wisdom, and a profound sense of responsibility. As he looks at his friends and peers, he sees a shared vision. Retirement is a time when grandparents bond closely with grandchildren, passing on their knowledge and watching the next generation grow up. However, society today is shifting, with more young parents choosing to raise their children on their terms, striving to create independent family units. While this independence is admirable, for many retirees, it feels like a loss, an unexpected distance from family that makes their golden years seem quieter and, at times, lonely. The very idea of retirement, once filled with visions of joyful family gatherings, now sometimes feels like an unfulfilled promise. It's a time of life where meaning and purpose can easily slip away if not carefully preserved. Many retirees who lack these bonds turn to work as a way to combat feelings of isolation and anxiety about financial security, especially if their pension is modest. Though a steady pension can certainly cover basic needs, it often doesn't fill the emotional void, nor does it account for inflation or unexpected expenses that can arise over the years. Consequently, Many retirees find themselves drawn to the idea of working again, not just out of financial necessity but also as a way to regain a sense of purpose, stability, and connection. For those with energy and health, re-entering the workforce after 60 is both possible and, in many cases, deeply rewarding. So, what kind of jobs can offer retirees both purpose and a manageable lifestyle? Today, I want to introduce 4 jobs that retirees can consider, each tailored to suit the pace and physical needs of their stage in life. One of the most common roles for active seniors is community security work. This type of work is often flexible and involves a calm daily routine. Retired seniors fill these roles in many neighborhoods, often working in guard rooms where they monitor access, greet residents, read newspapers, and perhaps share a cup of coffee with colleagues. It's a relaxed yet fulfilling environment, where they can stay involved without the intense demands of other work. For those interested in community security, it's wise to seek positions in mid-range or stable neighborhoods rather than upscale areas, as high-end apartments and gated communities may have stricter hiring policies. Even so, retirees need to be aware that security work often includes night shifts, which can be challenging, especially for those who are unaccustomed to staying awake through the night. In these cases, family support can make all the difference. I remember when a family member started a night security role. Although he enjoyed the quiet hours, he sometimes felt a deep fatigue that was hard to shake. His family rallied around him, encouraging him on tough nights and offering emotional support. These night shifts can be tough, but they are doable with the backing of loved ones. If you're looking to start in this line of work, personal introductions can help a lot. If you lack connections, try reaching out to local management offices, as they often hire directly. Another wonderful avenue for retirees is household support work, which is as practical as it is meaningful. Consider the story of a woman in her early 50s who retired 2 years ago. She had a pension income of over $4,500 monthly, which covered her financial needs, but still, she found herself feeling unfulfilled. Her husband had passed away a few years earlier, and her only child was busy with graduate school, leaving her alone much of the time. She took on part-time jobs at a local supermarket and managed a small store, but these roles didn't satisfy her desire to make a genuine impact. One afternoon, while resting on a park bench and reflecting on her next steps, she struck up a conversation with an acquaintance who shared a particular frustration. They were getting by with daily tasks but needed help around the house occasionally. This small moment sparked an idea. This woman realized that there might be many other elderly people in her neighborhood who needed just a bit of help, cooking, cleaning, or running errands, but didn't want or need a full-time housekeeper. Inspired by this conversation, she decided to offer her services as a household support worker. Rather than becoming a full-time caregiver, she could work as a kind of on-call helper, there when people needed her but with the flexibility to enjoy her retirement too. She began advertising her services on the community bulletin board, listing her skills in cooking, cleaning, and even companionship for those who might be lonely. This small notice sparked more interest than she expected, and before long, she had a few steady clients who welcomed her help each week. Her life took on a new rhythm, one that was both manageable and fulfilling. She spent her days helping neighbors, some of whom had become friends, and each visit brought a sense of satisfaction that money alone could not buy. She found joy in small, simple acts, preparing a warm meal, tidying up a familiar room, or simply sitting down with someone to talk about their day. This work didn't just fill her time, it filled her heart, giving her a profound sense of purpose she hadn't expected to find at this stage in life. In supporting her neighbors, she was also supporting herself, building connections that made her retirement feel rich with meaning and shared experiences. That very night, something unexpected happened, a night that would change her life in profound and unforeseen ways. She received messages from 3 people, each one the son or daughter of an elderly parent in need of help. Moved by the trust these strangers placed in her, she immediately accepted their requests, setting out the very next morning to begin what she saw as a simple job, yet what would become her true calling. She prepared meals with care, tailored to each elderly person's unique preferences, paying special attention to the details that would make each dish comforting and familiar. With each delivery, she didn't just hand over food. She shared a smile, a kind word, and, slowly, a sense of friendship. As she continued her work, her role expanded. She began assisting with other daily needs, like cleaning their homes, keeping their spaces bright and tidy, and even arranging furniture in ways that made it easier for them to move around safely. Before long, she was also accompanying her clients to medical appointments, providing more than just a helping hand. She offered companionship and a sense of security, a warm presence that reassured them they were not alone. After just a month, she started noticing a common thread among the elderly people she cared for. Many of them had family members who were unable to visit often, sometimes living far away, leaving these individuals feeling isolated and forgotten. A deep loneliness settled in their hearts, and she could see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. It was then that she understood a powerful truth. The elderly were not only in need of practical help, they were yearning for emotional support, for someone who would listen to their stories, understand their hardships, and simply share in their daily lives. They sought a genuine human connection, someone to hear their tales of love, loss, triumph, and regret. As she engaged more deeply with each person, her heart began to open. Listening to them wasn't just part of the job, it was a privilege. She learned about their histories, their joys and sorrows, and felt honored to witness the richness of their lives. This connection became her source of fulfillment and joy, adding meaning to her days. She found herself not only providing a service but also growing in compassion and empathy, which enriched her life in ways she hadn't expected. Each interaction was a lesson, a chance to glimpse life through their eyes, and her heart swelled with a sense of purpose. 6 months later, inspired by the bond she had formed, she decided to bring in a few former colleagues who shared her dedication to care. Together, they formed a small, tight-knit team, each member committed not only to practical help, cooking, cleaning, running errands, but also to the deeper emotional connection that so many elderly people desperately needed. They weren't just a group of caregivers, they were a community, spreading warmth, love, and dignity to the seniors they served. Word of their service quickly spread, and soon they were touching the lives of countless families, bringing relief and peace of mind to many who could not be there for their elderly loved ones every day. In reflecting on her journey, she realized that helping others, especially those who are often overlooked by society, had filled her life with new meaning. This revelation led her to think of other ways people could stay active and financially independent in their retirement years. One option was setting up a small food stall, perhaps selling freshly prepared meals, fruits, or snacks. For those who had some savings, investing in a small cart and setting up a stall near a busy supermarket or shopping mall entrance could be a way to engage with the community, enjoy casual interactions, and earn a little income on the side. But, of course, she understood that not everyone would want to take on this venture, as it required both financial risk and physical stamina. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 4 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For retirees who loved working with their hands, especially those who enjoyed gardening, setting up a small stall to sell fresh vegetables or herbs from their garden was another beautiful option. It was a way to connect with people and take pride in sharing produce they had grown themselves. The satisfaction of being out in the world, interacting with customers, could be immensely rewarding, especially for those who had spent years in jobs that felt disconnected from their passions. For women in particular, some jobs might be more physically demanding, like working as a security guard, which may be less feasible. But there were other, more manageable options, such as dishwashing at a local restaurant. She knew of one woman who, after retiring, found a dishwashing job during dinner hours, allowing her the rest of the day to herself. While the pay was modest, the work brought a steady, reliable income and a sense of purpose. Other jobs, such as hotel cleaning, were also available for those who needed extra income but wanted to avoid heavy lifting or strenuous hours. Above all, she felt it was important for retirees to balance their income goals with their well-being. Health should always come first, as it is the foundation for enjoying these later years. There was no point in pushing oneself to exhaustion, she believed. Living simply, within one's means, was a more fulfilling path. Instead of feeling pressured to earn more, retirees could focus on savoring life's little pleasures. Time spent with loved ones, the joy of a hobby, or simply watching the sunrise. True wealth, after all, was found in these simple, peaceful moments, not in material gains. In her view, retirement should be a season of freedom, a time to explore passions that may have been set aside and to find joy in life's quieter rhythms. Working could be an option, but it should never be an obligation. Most importantly, retirement was an opportunity to fulfill not just practical needs but the needs of the heart, to find purpose in caring for oneself and connecting with others, and to live each day in gratitude and peace. As we wrap up this inspiring journey, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've learned about compassion, purpose, and finding fulfillment in life's quieter moments. What stood out to you the most? Was it the importance of offering emotional support to those around us, the value of a simple life, or maybe the idea of staying active and independent in retirement? Share in the comments below one thing you've learned that you're excited to bring into your own life. Your insights and reflections mean a lot to us and to others in our community who are on a similar journey. If you liked this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay connected and inspired. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you.